What's up, YouTube fans? Welcome back to the AJ Speed Shop YouTube channel. Coming back to you today with another Buick tech tip video. Before I get started on that, I just wanted to mention, I know that it's been a month since I've done my last upload. I am behind. I actually had blown my elbow out at the gym about a month ago, so I haven't been able to do a whole lot of mechanical work, so I haven't really been having anything to come up with any good content for. But I do have a video coming in today that I think is going to be pretty beneficial to both turbo Buick owners and possibly regular G-body owners alike. So let me show you what we're working with today. What you're looking at here is an all-original 1987 Buick Grand National Gas tank. It came out of a low mileage part out car, and this thing was in mint condition. And I know you're wondering why you would want to install a 37-year-old gas tank. Well, the reason being is the turbo Buick gas tanks in the mid to late 80s had specific baffling built into the tank that kept the fuel pump submerged, and it prevented fuel starvation. And these cars that leave really hard or go around turns pretty hard have suffered from fuel starvation issues anytime an aftermarket tank has been installed. Even the newest aftermarket tanks like the Spectra GM 307C that does have some sort of a metal baffle built into it, they're still not that good. And they still suffer from fuel starvation problems big time. I have one in my car now. I'm gonna get that thing out today, and I'm gonna show you the differences in these tanks and what all causes the problems by running an aftermarket tank. Just take a quick look at these baffles in this thing as much as you can. This is the fuel pump bucket that is built in here in the factory tank. And it's got a series of trap doors, plastic and metal baffles in there to keep the fuel centered around the fuel pumps. It's a real trick piece for a factory item. They definitely put a lot of engineering into these stock tanks. This is my current gas tank. This is the Spectra GM 307C. And this particular tank came out around 2015, and it has what they call a dog pan bucket in the tank in the pump pickup area. It's very short. It basically looks like a pie pan, and it's very short, and this thing suffers from fuel starvation big time. I cannot make a wide open throttle pull in this thing with less than about 3/4 of a tank. At the track, I had to race it at a full tank to keep it from starving. And I can go around a turn. I can go around a hard like 40, 50 mile an hour turn. And if I have less than a half a tank in this thing, the car will die going around turns. And that is the problem with these aftermarket fuel tanks. They just do not manage the fuel supply to the pump well. Also, there's a problem with filling these tanks. For some reason, when you're putting gas in these tanks, they have a hard time taking the gas in and purging the air out before spitting the fuel back out on you from the filler neck. And it is a total pain in the butt to fill these things up. The clicker on the pump shuts off constantly. You can't get enough gas in it. It takes forever to fill them up, and that's if you're not wearing gas by the time you're done. So I have dealt with this for 3 years in hopes of trying to find a factory tank. So I finally got one. We're about to drop this old tank out. I'll get some shots of it and put this new tank in, and I'll show you guys everything that is different between these two tanks. Let's get going. Okay guys, as you can see here, we've got the tank out of the car, and it had quite a bit more fuel in it than I thought it did. Gas gauge was showing a half tank, but it looks like there was more than that. So I'm transferring the fuel out with this little electric fuel pump I got that I use for transferring fluids around here. And as soon as I get the tank empty, we'll start taking some pictures of it. Fuel pumps are kind of a pain in the butt. It's got twin DW340s in it. And as I was pulling it out, it started pulling the hanger apart. So I got some new fuel socks I'm gonna put on it, and I'm gonna readjust and snug up this fuel hanger, get everything back in the right orientation, and start the fight of putting it back in. It is an epic pain in the ass to get these twin pumps down in the fuel hole on the top of the tank. So let me get this fuel pumped over. I'm gonna get some pics of the inside of the old tank so you can see the differences between the Spectra tank and the stock tank. and then we'll start getting this thing back together. All right, here's a quick comparison of the tanks. This is the stock tank. See, it's got the bucket, and it's got a pretty extensive baffling system even behind the bucket. If you'll be able to see all that or not, probably not get it that good, but there's a baffle that runs all the way across from the right to the left side of the tank behind the bucket, a metal baffle. So even if the fuel escapes the bucket, the metal baffle seems like it would catch the majority of the wave to keep it close to the bucket. In comparison, here is the Spectra 307C tank. This is the one that's made in Canada, but this was an older one. This one's from about 2015. And these tanks are considerably worse than the newer ones. So this tank has got the little, what they call pie pan or dog dish bucket in there. It is basically nothing. That thing is only about 2 to 2.5 inches tall. The pump sits right in the middle of it. And let me see if I can get a shot of the back wall. There is no back wall. It just completely slushes out of the bucket and then hits there. There is a wall, I guess you'd say, but it's way behind where the bucket's at. And it's slotted down at the bottom where the fuel's supposed to fill into the bucket, but it's really just a piece of shit. So the newer Spectra tanks are supposed to be better. The ones from about 2015 and later supposedly have a lot taller basket in them. They do appear taller from some of the pictures I've seen, but everyone still claims to have similar problems with the fuel starvation. Filling the gas tank at the gas station is still a problem. They still try to burp fuel all over you. For some reason, the fill pipe into the tank, about how the tank is made inside, just does not let fuel enter the tank correctly. And you have to pump it really slow, and it stops the fuel clicker on the pump way before you're full. And so once it does get up to the top, it spits fuel back on you a few times, and it still might not be full. It's just backing up in the filler neck. So stock tanks don't have these problems. So that said, if you're looking at replacing your gas tank out of a turbo Buick, I would really look to see if there's any way you can salvage your stock tank. Take it to a radiator shop, have it cleaned, boiled, something. Do anything you can to save that stock tank, unless it is just completely trashed. Because these aftermarket tanks are not good. And I understand that you have to do what you have to do to get the car running, because that's what I did. But you will create problems, especially if your car makes any kind of decent amount of power. I mean, with the Spectra tank I had here, I could go from a second gear roll at 50, and if I had less than 3/4 of a tank, it would starve the motor. I would lose fuel pressure, and sometimes the car would even pop. I mean, if I didn't have O2 correction on my ECU to throw every bit of fuel at it that it can, I probably would have nuked the motor at least twice. And 2 times I've had the car die going around turns. I had about a half a tank or a little less, and I go around a hard turn, and the car would literally die going around a turn. And then as soon as I would straighten it out, I could start the car right back up and it'd run fine. So all the times I've done draggy tests or racing at the track, I've had to have between 3/4 and a full tank of gas, which, as you all know, that's a lot of extra weight in an 18-gallon tank. So here we are back with the stock tank, and I'm gonna get this fuel hanger put together and get it in this tank, and I'll check back here shortly. All right, guys, finally got this new, to me, old tank mounted up in the car. Pretty good little job wrestling these tanks up in there, trying to get everything to fit right and get these old straps and bolts and stuff started, but it's all back in there. So I'm gonna put some gas in this thing and pressure it up, check for leaks, and cycle my fuel pumps and see what we get. I'll report back. Okay, guys. Got the tank in, got some gas in the tank, do not have any leaks, but I am going to test my fuel pumps. And the reason I want to do this, I want to make sure that both pumps are still working since I had everything all apart. So With the ECU GN and Tuner Studio, you can test your fuel pump circuits, number 1 and 2, through the computer itself. And with the DDEFI dash that I have that interacts with the ECU GN, I can do all of this from the dash in my car. So let me just show you what we're going to do here. You can see my fuel pressure is right here. And this is just sitting here with the car not running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the first fuel pump on, and you should hear it and see the fuel pressure change. Okay, that's pump 1. And now I'm going to trigger pump 2. And you're also going to see an indicator come on my dash right here that tells me when pump 2 is triggered to come on. Just something that I can keep an eye on out on the road. So I should have a green light on that, and I should see the fuel pressure come up some. So both pumps are on. Got about 40 pounds sitting here. Second pump off. Second pump back on. So it seems like my second pump is working. Go ahead and turn the first pump off. And that is it. So that test is complete. And now we are safe to go drive the car and go fill this thing up and check the filler neck for leaks. Hopefully we don't have any leaks on the filler neck. It was a little bent when I got it, and I had to bend it back into place to fit correctly above the bumper fillers. So hopefully we don't have any leaks there, but we will soon find out. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the OEM gas tank swap in the Grand National. And the reason I say day 2 is because yesterday, after I finished performing the fuel pump circuit testing and both pumps worked and tested correctly in the car, upon the road test, the fuel pressure was doing some really weird stuff. It was not holding fuel pressure on one pump. Even with both pumps, I was having a hard time maintaining fuel pressure at anywhere over about 30% throttle. So I came home, I checked all the obvious stuff. The pumps were both coming on, but there was clearly some major fuel restrictions somewhere. So I had to get up this morning, remove the tank, and take the pumps back out. I checked all the obvious stuff, wiring, fuel pump socks. I measured the fuel pump pickup location to the bucket of the tank itself to make sure the pumps weren't bottomed out on the floor. And I took a bunch of measurements, and I've got a bunch of steel shots I'm going to drop for you right here just so you can see some of the things I was testing and why. At this point, after going through my diagnosis, I was not able to really find a smoking gun anywhere. Everything looked good. The only thing I did is I changed back to my older fuel socks that were a larger fuel sock. And I don't think they would make any difference because both of the fuel socks that I used were from DW, and they were for the 340 pump. So I don't know if it made a difference or not, but I put the tank back in. I blew the vent line clear. Double checked my fuel lines, made sure I had nothing pinched anywhere. The lines were free on the top of the tank. And I just test drove it, and the car seems fine. Fuel pressure holds good. I made a few little short pulls, even made one short wide open throttle pull, and the fuel pressure is awesome. So I don't know. This is going to be one of those things, one of those Buick mysteries, I guess, that requires 2 to 3 times of doing something before it works the way it's supposed to. But hopefully it's going to continue to work. I'm going to get out and drive it some more today. I'm going to try to put another 40 or 50 miles on it and make sure it acts right when it's hot and it's hotter outside. And I'll try to get a little bit more footage for y'all just inside the car. And hopefully we're going to call this a completed project, hopefully with no more issues. Guys, we're making a little quick roll here in the Grand National. We're going to make an easy little pull. It's make sure the fuel pressure and everything stays normal. Alright guys, on that last little short pull, I stopped that video early so we could do a screen capture of the dash and we could see what the vital signs were saying at the end of that short little pull. The little pop that you heard in the very beginning of the pull was when the methanol system came in and the air-fuel ratio dipped down to like a 9.8, and when it does that, it'll have a little pop. I normally do not run the car with the methanol on. Normally the car's on E85, and so my fuel tables and everything are really dialed in good for E85, but right now it's just on 93 octane and methanol. So I normally don't even run the car hard on meth. I just don't trust running it on meth all the time. But for doing a quick little pull just for testing fuel pressure and everything, it was fine. As you can see on that last screenshot, it had about 70 pounds of fuel pressure. It raised up on a 1-to-1 ratio with the boost. So everything was fine, and I'll be able to go back and look at the logs and make sure the manifold air temp and everything came down, but I'm sure everything was good. Air fuel was a little rich. I did have a little bit more fuel pressure than I usually do at wide open throttle. So right now it's on the small injectors. It's on 75-pound injectors, and with the methanol, the duty cycle is about 90% on the 75-pound injectors. So I don't like to stay in the gas too long when I'm on the small injectors. I only use these for road trips when I'm running on 93 octane a lot. Normally it's on the 160-pound injectors, and it's on E85, so the duty cycle is good. The tune is really good on when it's on E85. So we're gonna do cruising the coast in a couple of weeks, and after cruising the coast, I will go back to my E85 tune and my 160 injectors, and we'll get everything dialed in for the fall and get that winter air tune ready to go. So we'll be able to start playing around. But as of now, the fuel pump, fuel pressure, everything seems good. So I'm gonna call the tank swap good for this point, and get ready to do this road trip here in a couple weeks. Good winter air comes in, we put the 160s back in, turn it up. Right now I got the timing way back and the boost is way back, so it's super conservative for 93 octane. Basically because I don't ever beat on it on 93 octane, but it has to be safe enough to be able to get up on freeways and pass cars on the interstate and stuff. So right now I'm gonna call it good till the after the trip, and then we'll start turning this baby back up and get it ready to start playing again. So anyway, I'm gonna drop some still shots in the video, some of the things that we had measured while I had the tank out, and kind of give you guys an insight into everything that I was doing during the troubleshooting process. Hopefully this video helps some of you guys out that are doing gas tank swaps on Buicks or G-bodies in general, and hopefully this is beneficial to some of you guys for something. If you got any questions or anything, please leave them in the comments below. I appreciate the views as usual, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. I appreciate all the feedback that I get. I know I'm behind on uploads. I'm hopefully going to start getting caught up now. But thanks again for watching my videos, and all comments are appreciated. Thanks a lot. Have a good one, guys.